Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. And on social media, you know me as PD Beats. You'll recognize my guests from a lot of really cool TV shows and movies, specifically Riverdale, Dirty John. Movie-wise, you'll recognize her from Summer of '84. We're with Tiera Skovbye. Tiera, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. How's that quarantine been for you so far?
I mean, it's been fine. I was in the middle of, or not the middle, I was in the beginning of filming the second season of my show, Nurses.
Yes.
We had gotten like an episode and a half.
I didn't bring up Nurses. I apologize.
Okay,
Nurses on Global.
And we got shut down. And so we were filming in Toronto, and me and the three girls, we were all from Vancouver, so they just sent us home. So I've just been chilling.
Absolutely.
Been bored.
So I just wanted to know, like, Natasha, did you know Natasha before Nurses, or did you meet her on Nurses?
I met her, we chem read together for the parts that we got. So I met her right before our chem reads, and I kind of like did a little snooping of who was going to maybe be at the chem reads, and I found out through my agent that it was going to be her, and so I DM'd her on Instagram. I was like, hey, I think we're chem reading together. Do you want to like get together and run lines? So we like met up in our hotel and ran lines, and I think it gave us a bit of an advantage. Absolutely.
No, for sure. I've interviewed Jordan Johnson-Hinds, who's awesome. Though that show's amazing. So before we kind of get into certain projects, I mean, whether, you know, people act, they write, they direct, they like perform, you're all storytellers. So when did Tiera Skovbye decide she wanted to be a storyteller?
Well, I started doing commercials when I was a kid, so I got scouted, and I did commercials, and my parents were, you know, they just, the kind of parents that made sure that me and my sister just kind of had lots of opportunities, sports, music, good grades, all that kind of stuff. And then I got scouted, so my parents were like, okay, here, we'll try acting, we'll see how she does. If she doesn't want to continue, she doesn't have to. And then I was, I think, like 11 or 12, and I started studying in an adult program on the weekends. And I had an acting class, and I really, really liked it. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, I think this is something that I could do. And I just kind of continued from there and never stopped.
No, absolutely. And no, you've had an amazing career so far of a lot of things. I mean, obviously, a lot of people will recognize you from playing Polly on Riverdale, and it's kind of crazy because I feel like that show got like season 1 came out, people were watching it, and like immediately, like not like just had a fan base like right away.
Yeah, it was like almost like there was a bit of a fan base and a bit of a buzz before it even came out, but when it came out, it was just like it went from 0 to 100. It was crazy. It
was crazy. And you know, you're not on the show anymore, but like do you find that show kind of just keeps following you around, or not as much these days?
Well, I mean, my character hasn't died, so no. I mean, even the characters that do, you never really know, so there's always the possibility that you know, she can come back. You never know what's going to happen. There's so many storylines that are constantly being played out on that show, but yeah, it's you know, having been on it and being able to say that I played Betty's sister has been an amazing advantage for my career, and everybody knows the show, so it's great.
And of course, you know, we are Canadian. I mean, Nurses on Global. I mean, the one thing I love about this show is the cast is amazing. And I find really cool because it's like all 5 of you have kind of worked on some really amazing projects, you know, before you went on Nurses. Like the track records are really cool with yourself, with Riverdale, you know, Jordan's done, you know, Upload and Suits, you know, Natasha with The Possession, you know, Sandy with Grey's Anatomy, and of course Donald has done a lot of really cool short projects as well. That's pretty cool to see that, right, from a Canadian production.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, like, you know, Donald had done a couple episodes of Working Moms, but was kind of finding his footing. And like, I think since then he's done some really cool projects, and I think it's really awesome that they put together such a great cast of Canadian actors.
And when I interviewed him, he couldn't talk about it much, but he's in like the upcoming Blumhouse remake of The Craft, which is going to be crazy. And I think that's a perfect segue to talk about why I really wanted to interview you for this show. So the horror genre is a genre that I love because it's kind of growing and evolving a lot of times, and like so many different elements come to play. And you were in a film called Summer of '84, which, like, for all my viewers watching right now, like, you have to see this movie. Like, I love this movie and I recommend it to all my friends, and I have a perfect track record of everyone loved it after I told them to do it. And it's like a combination of like Scream, Stranger Things, like it's so good, and like the acting is amazing, and the cast and crew is so good, and I just find it looks good. Like it's just filmed amazing. So what was that like, kind of filming that project?
That project was so fun. That project was really close to home, and I got to be a part of like a very, overall like beginning to end experience on that one. And became really close with everyone who was making it. It was really cool because we had 3 directors. Yeah. So RKSS was a brother and sister. Wait, am I getting this right? Brother and sister, and then sister and husband. Yeah. And they're these French directors, and they're amazing. They all had like their own specific jobs, their own like detail-oriented thing that they kind of did, and one would talk to us more, and one was more involved with like the creative and the visual and like the technical. Like they worked so well together. I was so overwhelmed going into a production with 3 directors. I was like, oh my god, how's this gonna work? But it was great. It was like very seamless, and I think because of that, it added this like element of like it being very visually cool as well, which I loved. And our DP JP was amazing. Which I think is what made it so stunning. But everyone in it was great. It was so much fun.
I interviewed Caleb about the movie because I watched it. I was like, I need to get some people from this movie. You know what I mean? And like, I got him on the show, and it's just like it's one of those movies where it's a little bit of like I thought like a slow burn in terms of like where the story's going a little bit, and then when it kind of hits, you're just like, all right, like this was what I was waiting for.
Twist at the end that you're like, oh damn, wasn't expecting that.
No, absolutely, and it's really cool. Is that a genre that you enjoyed working in? I mean, what people kind of maybe it's not like full on like jump scare horror. There is the creepiness of it, but it's more of like it's built more as like a thriller. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
did you enjoy working? Thriller, yeah. Did you enjoy working in that genre?
Oh, absolutely. And I think what made it even more fun was the element of it being set in the 80s. So there was, certain things that nowadays in those certain situations we'd have cell phones, or certain things that would maybe make it less, you wouldn't maybe be put in some of those situations, or you'd have easy fixes or whatnot. So that part of it was really fun as well. But the whole like jump scare, some of the blood and the gore and of it, was definitely, it's so fun.
No, absolutely. You're part of season 2 of Dirty John as well. And you play it's like a flashback character, correct?
Yeah, I played the younger version of Betty, who's played by Amanda Peet.
And I love Amanda Peet. I remember I saw Amanda Peet in Saving Silverman. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes, I used to. Okay, so my dad had that movie on a VHS, and I would like watch it when I was way too young to watch it. I remember parents were like, "What are you watching?" But I loved that movie, and I told her that when I met her, and she was like, "Oh God, I hope you've watched other stuff I've done."
That was like the first time That was like the first time I saw her, but that was also the first time I saw Jack Black. Like I know he did High Fidelity before that, but that was like the first time I saw Jack Black also.
And Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn.
Such a random cast.
Steve Zahn is underrated.
Absolutely.
So good. It's funny too because like Jack Black I could talk about forever because like School of Rock is like one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
But no, it's pretty cool. You got an opportunity to kind of work with a lot of people over these years. I mean, is it one of those things where, does it hit you sometimes that you're able to kind of like, work on one project that then 2 months later you're like, oh wow, like I wanted to work with this person on this project and I get to do it. Has that ever hit you?
Oh, totally. All the time. I filmed Dirty John in the Universal Studios backlot, which, I remember going to Universal Studios with my family and doing the studio tour and being like, one day I'll film here. And I remember the day that I drove onto the studio for the first time for my first day of filming. I just cried. I like got in my trailer and cried because I was like, oh my God, it's happening. But it was just one of those experiences where I was like, this is, one of those things that you put in your head as a dream, as a goal, as something you want to get to. And then all of a sudden you find yourself there and you're like, how did this happen? Is this a dream? Like, is this real? But then to be able to work with people who have done so much, you get to see their process. Because I got to sit on set for a week and a half before I even started filming, watching Amanda and Christian, which in itself was just like the coolest. Because just watching the way they work and their process and everything was just very, very, very interesting.
Do you find there's like this like not pressure but like momentum when like everyone talked a lot about Dirty John season 1, right? And then you get the cast to play. You get casted to play in season 2, right? And it's almost like it's on, right? Like pressure. Like, have you ever thought about that? Like a pressure a little bit?
I mean, maybe a little bit. I think what's really cool about this show, though, is that you're not really trying to like recreate something because it's a whole new cast and a whole new story.
Yeah.
So I think that adds this like fresh element of like, it's not going to be what season 1 was. It's going to be its own thing with our own creators and our own actors. And it's going to be amazing because the story's so good and the writing was incredible. And then, it's different, but it's still amazing.
I sometimes talk about sports on the show as well. You did a volleyball movie with Natalie Sharp.
I did. Yeah.
Is that where you met Natalie too? Because I know you're really good friends.
Yeah.
So does that happen? Like, so is that like a misconception out of it? Like, because like everyone knows everyone, right? But I guess like a lot of people like become friends because you're with the person for a long time shooting, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it hasn't happened to me a ton. That volleyball movie, there was 5 girls. Yeah. There were 6 of us. Danica, who played Caroline, wasn't in it quite as much. She was around a ton, but me and the 4 girls from Vancouver, me, Natalie, Nesta, and Lillian, we all became like really, really good friends. Nesta now lives in LA, but we still see her all the time and we all hang out. And it was one of those experiences where you're like, a lot of times on set you make friends and you're like, yeah, we'll hang out, we'll keep in touch, it'll be great. But like, we actually all do. Like, we have a group chat that we talk in every day, and which is really, really great. And then Natasha was the same kind of thing where her and I instantly, we were in a different situation because we were living in Toronto, didn't know anyone else in the city, didn't know the city. And so we just became buddies because we did everything together.
You're both from Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, that helps as well, for sure.
Exactly.
Natalie Sharp, I interviewed her. I haven't posted it yet, but so amazing, so funny, but so like she was so funny. Like one of the funny, like genuinely like funniest people I've interviewed. Like I had such a blast with her, and like it was just like it wasn't even like. If you go back and watch it, like there are just moments where like, we're not trying to be funny and we just start laughing.
That's awesome. Yeah, Natalie's like that. It's like never a dull moment when you hang out with her, for sure.
Because she started talking about her like, because she has pretty like unique Instagram and Twitter handles, right? It's like now it's Sharp 007 and then like N Sharpie or something. So she's just saying like, you can follow me there, and I just started laughing.
I literally have friends who are like, wait, is Natalie N Sharpie on Instagram? Like they just like know her by her Instagram name. It's so funny.
No, absolutely. Are there any projects that you like, genres that you like haven't had a chance to work on that you kind of hope to work on in the near future, Tiera?
I guess, yeah, probably. I haven't really done a ton of comedy. Speaking of funny, most of the stuff that I've done has been, like a little bit of horror or like Nurses, just like more dramas, Nurses, John, that kind of stuff. I haven't really done anything. Yeah, like a sitcom or a comedy in that kind of way, which I think would be so fun. I think it would be a huge challenge because it's so specific and timing is so important. But I would definitely love to do that at some point.
Is there a lot of overlap sometimes, or not as much as we think, in terms of like, because at one point people that like, follow your career and follow your IMDb and see like what you have going on, some of the projects you have are kind of released same times. Doesn't mean they're filmed the same times, but like, is there overlap sometimes with some of your projects in terms of shooting?
Oh, totally. Like when I filmed the last season of Once Upon a Time, I was filming, I think it was season 2 of Riverdale. And there was some days where it would be like Monday, Tuesday, Once Upon a Time, Wednesday, Thursday, Riverdale, Friday, Once Upon a Time. And like it was a couple of days like that. The same actually on when I was filming Summer of '84, there was some overlap with Riverdale as well. And then last season in Nurses, I came back twice to film an episode or two of Riverdale. But it also, like, you know, I did a movie that's coming out that was supposed to come out at the same time as Dirty John, but I filmed that like 3 years or 2.5 years ago that they've just been holding on to, and then it'll come out. So it's one of those things where you like never really know.
I often kind of like when I started Popternative, I kind of wanted to have those discussions, like those behind the scenes discussions, and I wanted my viewers to kind of learn things that they would not really hear anywhere else type things. Specifically because I ask sometimes about like misconceptions of like the entertainment industry. I mean, you're on all these really big shows, you know what I mean? And people think like, oh, it's like this. She went in and she filmed this for like 3 hours and then boom, you know, like we were watching it. You know what I mean? Is there anything specifically about Riverdale that is like a misconception? Does it take a long time? Does it take longer to shoot than people think? Are there sometimes, does it take a long time, like the pre-production of it? Like, is there anything on top of your head about Riverdale that like is there not as much time as people think, you know, to go on set? Because it's such is it a bigger production than people think?
Oh yeah. I think maybe one of the things is that it looks like we're so many places that maybe one of the biggest misconceptions is that, like, I guess not a misconception, but maybe something that people don't know is that our studio pretty much has everything built. Everybody's houses, the school, like everything is built in our studio. So while it looks like we're going around, same with like the diner, like everything is on the lot. So we spend most of our time, except for like outside locations, like physically outside in the studio.
Yeah, like I interviewed a director of photography like that worked on Riverdale a little bit named Brenda Yugama.
Oh yeah, I know Brendan. I've worked with him. Yeah,
absolutely. And he was just saying that like that project, like it was such a focal point of like how it looked, like the neon look, like they really paid attention to that.
And they pumped so much smoke into the studio all the time to give it that like dreamy, mysterious appearance.
No, absolutely. Well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that because it's true. Your character is very much alive, so you never know.
It's true. I can always come back. Polly has been known to like do some weird things and then kind of pop back up, so you never know.
Polly was like that character that was just like everything's going down and it's just like, Polly, like, damn it, Polly.
What is happening? I know, she just like could not catch a break.
There's like shows I feel like that don't have like a shelf life, and I feel like those shows that are on the CW like Riverdale, like people are just gonna watch those all the time. In the next 10 years, they're always gonna watch them. Like totally. the one for me is like The Office. Like I can't stop watching that show.
That's like me and Friends. I think I just finished it all the way through for the 3rd or 4th time, and it still doesn't get old. Like it ended, and I was like, so do I start back at episode 1 now? Just like, do I just keep going?
Very quick before we wrap up, An Offer I Saved by the Bell, a Lifetime, you were in that. Did you have to watch a lot of Saved by the Bell before you did that show? That movie? Yeah.
Like I had already growing up, I watched quite a bit of it. But I definitely did. And like the specific scenes that we kind of did our own version of recreating, I definitely paid more attention to those scenes and made sure I watched them so that I could, you know, emulate it properly. But yeah, I watched it, did as much research as I could, read as much about what life was like for them, and try to find interviews from that time that they were filming and stuff.
For sure. No, absolutely. And hopefully, you know, Nurses season 2 can get shot soon too, because you guys were about to start or almost
we had filmed an episode and a half. So, hold on. Yeah, we had filmed an episode and a half. So, but it looks like we're going back in about a month, which would be great.
That's awesome. Well, Tiera, thank you so much for coming on Popternative.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Okay, well, I'm not as exciting as Natalie. But my Instagram is Skovbye1. And then my Twitter, I think, is Skovbye Tiera, because somebody hacked Tiera Skovbye and still owns it. So Skovbye Tiera it is. And
here's Steve getting to the millions soon, because you're close on Instagram.
Getting there.
It's getting there for sure. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, it's Tiera Skovbye and PD Beats signing off.
thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.